If you've looked at some previous episodes of Explore the Shore, you'll know that different habitats harbour different groups of organisms. And today we're going to look at another habitat type that we haven't studied before, and that is boulder shores. Most of the South African coastline is made up either of clean sandy beaches or of solid rocky shores. And as a result, most of the research that's been done on the coastline has been done on one of those two systems. But actually a portion of the coastline consists of another type of system, and that is where you have loose rocks. And those rocks can be large, in which case we call them boulders, or they can be smaller, in which case we call them pebbles or cobbles. And these pebble or cobble or boulder shores have actually been almost completely neglected by researchers. And the very first research project to actually look at what animals live on a boulder shore was only done about 10 years ago. And Leah looked, in fact, at this very shore that we're sitting on at the moment. And what she found was that, surprisingly, there are actually more species on this boulder shore than there are on a corresponding solid rocky shore on the other side of the headland here. And the reason for that is because there's actually more shelter and there's more habitat on the boulder shore than on the rocky shore. First of all, there's more surface area because you have the top of the boulder, the sides of the boulder, and the underneath of the boulder, and then in fact the boulder's often sitting on rock, so you have that rock surface as well. So there's a lot more surface area. And then the sides and the bottoms of the boulders are much more protected. They're much cooler, it's much more humid, and as a result, softer, more sensitive animals like, say, keyhole limpets or chitons can live very happily there, and they can't survive on either the top of the boulder or on solid rock. So when we look at this shore, we found that there are actually 20 or 30% more species here than there are on the rocks. It's just that you can't really see them because they're not on the tops of the rocks. This is one of the very few cobble beaches on the South African coastline. And the difference between cobble beaches and boulder beaches is really to do with the size of the stones. On cobble beaches here, the stones are quite small and they're constantly in movement. And that actually means that nothing can hang on to the rocks lower down. Seaweeds can't grow on them, and attached animals can't attach to them. So the only animals that can survive on these smaller, more mobile boulders are ones that move out of the intertidal when the tide comes in. So the fauna here is almost completely monopolized by air-breathing, mobile crustaceans, like isopods, little woodlice, and beach hoppers. And they live mostly high on the shore, and when the tide goes out they move through the little caves in between these cobbles and feed on the algal debris that gets trapped there. And when the tide comes in, they move up above the high water mark.
So it's just a small difference in rock size that's creating a totally different habitat.
Absolutely. The critical thing is at what size do the stones become stable?
I mean, with these boulders, there's so much place for seaweeds to grow, so why aren't there any seaweeds on any of these rocks which we're looking at?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, Matt, and the answer to it really is that the grazers are there, but they're underneath the boulders during the heat of the day like this and during low tide. So when the tide comes in, or at night time, then the grazers that are hiding underneath the boulder come out onto the top and eat all the seaweeds. So the fact that there's no seaweeds actually just means that there's a lot of grazers, so there's a lot going on here. It doesn't mean that this is a desert.
It's just all happening in the shadows.
Yeah, that's right. So let's just try this quite small stone here. If you turn over a boulder, just try and lift it carefully, and then when you return it, just slowly put it down exactly where you found it. And yes, look, there's a little shore crab underneath here, and there's a whole lot of winkles, of top shells, both on the underside of the boulder and on the rock underneath. So these will come out and graze on the top of the boulder when the tide is in. So down here a little bit lower on the shore we should get more species underneath the boulders. So let's turn over a couple of these and have a look. There's quite a lot of more sensitive organisms underneath this boulder. Here we've got loads of little purple keyhole limpets. They wouldn't be able to survive on the top of the rock. Here we've got an anemone, and these chitons here, also you never see them on the top of the rock. They're always underneath. So all those grazers are going to come out from their little shelter at night or when the tide is in, and they're going to feed on the top of the boulder. So just look at all the keyhole limpets sheltering under this rock. Oh, and here's a little frogfish. Let's lift him up carefully. So he's got stranded out of the water, but he'll be totally fine underneath the rock there. It's a nice damp situation. He's got a huge mouth. Look at his mouth. Yeah, frogfish are slow-moving predators, and they use this huge mouth to gulp down quite large prey. And when the tide comes in shortly, you'll just swim away again. Sorry, frogfish, I'll put you back in your hole there. So just like on rocky or sandy shores, as you move from high tide to low tide, you move through different zones. And here we are down right by the low water mark. So we should get a completely different group of organisms under these rocks. Here's a sea cucumber, and these are nudibranch eggs. And there's a starfish. There's quite a nice big whelk. And here's a little sponge crab with his cloak on. There he goes. So this is the sea dragon nudibranch, and that's the one that's been laying those yellow eggs. Oh, this is a beautiful big one. Look at his big cowl, his hood there at the front. And then on my main finger there, there's also a sea spider, a picnic on it. Ow, 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 ow. Oh, we found a kelp crab, but he's decided, ow, ow, ow. He likes to bite me as well. There you go, little guy. Despite the fact that very little is known about what happens on boulder shores, they're really fascinating habitats. So if you have a boulder shore close to where you live, go down and take a look at it. Just be careful in two respects. First of all, navigating across the boulders can be quite tricky, so watch out that you don't slip. And if you do turn over boulders to look at what's underneath, you probably see some really fascinating animals, but just make sure you turn the boulder back again and place it back into its original position gently and carefully so that you don't crush those beautiful animals. Whoop. So let's have a look under this rock.
This is just one of the many creatures and features that we dive into in our new Explore the Shore book, available in stores now. Hit subscribe for more.